Hello and welcome back. Half-a-Lou. New project coming to the garage. It's November, it's cold. We have a hot project coming, very hot, spicy, some might say. It's a large project by size. I think it will fit in this garage, but as you know by now, because this is before I've made the title of the video, there is a 1975 Lincoln Continental Mark something, two-door coupe, low mileage car that caught on fire. And it's gonna go right here. Or no, right here. We're gonna put it here. So this is a two-door garage, but it can fit a third car if all this mess is gone. So I have to get these inner fenders back there up in storage. Got to get that garbage down at the street. Got to get this pole out of the way. That little wagon guy out of the way. Basically just got to make room. We're going to move the Corvette over, get this garage set up. So today's Wednesday, Friday, the Lincoln will come. If any of you structural engineer weirdos are concerned about me removing that pole, happy to report that this sketchy garage only had this little post thing in it, and I'm the one who put these metal poles in, so it should be fine. And if it's not, RIP me and the cars that are in here. So, gonna move the car, slide her over. Not sure if you'll get other Lou. You might just get one half Lou this entire episode, so sorry in advance. I know I'm not the one that you come to see. Talk soon. This car hasn't been started in literal weeks. I can't remember really the last time it was. So we'll see what happens. Okay, car's running good. Seems to be smoking a little less. Got a lot of compensation from being called out, to be expected. I'm gonna jack up the rear. I do have wheel dollies, and I hopefully can just push it right over, and it'll be in its new home for a week or two. I didn't lie to you. New project. Not my car. Long-term customer. Has quite a neat little collection. This is his only Ford. He has an 85 Buick Riviera or an 84, I don't remember. 64 Corvette, a 67 Camaro, a 57 Chevy Bel Air. But I am tasked with the big boy. This 1975 Lincoln Continental Mark IV. Very rare color combination from what I understand. Not a cheap car back in its day. $11,000 is what they started at according to the internet. They made a good amount. 47,000-ish, but none that got quite this toasty. So the story goes, family owned this from Florida, drove it up to Pennsylvania in the mid-1980s, traded it in Philadelphia. It went through an auction, got to a car lot local to northeastern Pennsylvania here, and the owner just happened to be driving by. This is a car that was on his list, and they struck a deal. So he's had it since 1985. Initially, he had some issues with the Motorcraft carburetor that was on it, so he put on this Holly. As you can see, the fuel line here wraps right around the distributor-ish, makes contact with the plug wires, and when he was getting gas, started to back up, heard a poof, and the next thing he knows, car's on fire. The gas attendant across the street ran over with the fire extinguisher, so not a ton of damage ensued. It wasn't only on fire for a short while, it got hot here. A lot of the hoses and the various lines got hot, but pretty much everything's going to be saved. That could be. I'm going to repaint the top end of the engine, detail everything, paint what needs to be painted. Got a new carburetor to put on, a new wiring harness, starter, an alternator. We got all these things to do. Got a lot going on. So this will probably be a two-part video series. We will take a little bit more in-depth look at the car shortly, and we will get to work on my first Ford. Never done a Ford product, not a Ford guy. Each car gets treated with the same amount of respect and love and aggravation. Coming up, To Lose Garage or Garage. Talk soon. Look at this. Pulled down the hood pad and this popped up. This has to be, this car is over 100,000 miles, so it definitely was never removed before. I'm gonna try and carefully do this. It's already tearing there. Let's see, it's a little wet for some reason. Oh, it's so fragile. The owner's gonna love this. Look at how nice of shape it's in. I wonder why it's wet. Oh. Come on. Oh, that middle part. Let's see if we could do this. You always want to match to make sure that it is the right build sheet for the car. So 18865. 18865. How cool. Let's see. I don't know any of these codes. I'm not a Ford guy. Put it down in the comments if you know what these codes are. Hope to do some research on this and come back to it. Good morning. As a continuation from the other day, it is Sunday morning. We are going to start officially on the Lincoln, have the hood pad removed, got to clean up all of the chemical from the fire extinguisher, really get a nice clean base of everything that we're about to take off. That way we know exactly where stuff went for pictures and so on and so forth. As you can see, it did get pretty hot on like the cruise control servo thing there. All these hoses are shot, but before I want to take everything off, I want to at least remove and see what we have in terms of, okay, these parts can be reused. This wire's shot, XYZ, so on and so forth. As you can see, it really didn't get that hot like around in here, but it did certainly not get cold. Bad joke, my bad. So I'm gonna start just by vacuuming everything out and then having a little bit more understanding with what is, I don't even know. I don't know why. Just vacuuming it out. We'll go with that. Okay. All right, got mostly everything off. Spark plug wires, carburetor, cruise control, the coil. You can even see somehow some of the fire chemical stuff. I forget what it's called. Someone knows. I'll get corrected in the comments. Even got underneath into the distributor cap. Don't really know how that happens, but it does. Fire's wild. I mean, you could see like here it got really hot. Here it basically was untouched. We're going to try and save the sticker action when we go to repaint these. But if you bring it over here, here's the victim, or the culprit, I should say. This was the part that went right into the carburetor. So if I bring you underneath, oh, that's the back. This is on a swivel. It was something like that. This is where it ruptured. 20-plus-year-old hose, 30-year-old hose, ruptured and lit there, and I'm assuming it was probably spraying because it was pressurized. So, surprise, underneath the air cleaner, although it got pretty toasty, didn't really have much of an issue, and my camera just died. So, fix that. I am fully aware that this is about to make an absolute mess everywhere. But I'm about to pressure wash this thing because see all these nooks and crannies, you're just never going to be able to get it fully clean. And I really don't have any other choice. So with that being said, this is going to be a disaster. It's going to go a long way. It's going to make a mess of my garage. I only have the car this far out because I am just worried that it goes either rolling down the hill or I can't push it back in. So we're going to see what happens. Hi, how are you? We're back on the Lincoln. Yesterday, I left the video off by pressure washing it. As you can see, got a lot of residual all over the place, but this car's only gonna get dirtier before it gets cleaner, so no big deal. Pressure washing was the right move. It is significantly cleaner. It looks a lot better. There's still some residue laying around, but that's okay. Get that cleaned up. Valve covers actually are still blue after all. Today's goal, we're gonna get this intake cleaned up as best as we could. We went back and forth on if we're gonna take it out, but I think it's best to just leave it in. As I mentioned, we are gonna be painting not only the intake, but also the valve covers, so they will come out. These factory AC lines or heater core lines, what are these? Look like heater core to me. These factory heater core lines look like they got overspray, so we'll probably sand these down and at least dust them, I guess would be a good way to put it. Looks like they had the original tower clamps on it, or what I would assume would be original, so we'll clean these hoses up as well. Just to recap, this car obviously caught on fire. We all know that, but now that I have all of the, what I think are all of the burnt parts out, I can give you a really good overview. So here's a wiring harness. This will be on the top left front, so the driver's side front where the coil goes. You can just follow it down. These are all burned here. New wiring harness is there. The cruise control vacuum canister. We will not reuse this bracket. We have a new one for this. We are going to repaint this. This is for the throttle cable. Carburetor is obviously shot. The victim or the culprit, I keep doing that. New wiring harness, new old wiring harness, and then the wires. Some of them got really crispy. Might actually reuse that distributor cap per the owner's request, so we'll have to see. Air filter got toasted. Did some spray outs yesterday with the color he gave me. Might be a little bit darker, but I figure once we get it all cleaned up, we'll have a better idea. And some other parts in there, coil, various bolts and brackets. In addition to that, we're gonna repaint everywhere you see surface rust. So all along here, he has the cover that goes here. Got some little scaling up in here. And new alternator we're gonna put on, new starter, bunch of new decals that he bought, just general, clean up the engine bay, because again, I haven't shown much of the car yet because there's not a ton of space. It is a really nice car, especially for 100,000 miles. One repaint that we know of. It's got some tint. Let's see, in the interior. I know these cars came with leather as an option. This car does not have leather. We're gonna detail the interior as well because it probably hasn't been in forever. Let's see what we got mileage-wise. Cartier clock, how cool. I don't know, I can't read that, it's dark. I think I show 102, 182. Different instrument cluster for sure. This car's used a lot of fuel, so maybe that's why it's in the middle. Not exactly sure, but then you got your idiot lights or your warning lights, alternator, low fuel, engine door ajar, brake, wipers, lighters, fasten seat belts. I know these two-door Lincolns are pretty, oh, there's the other fender covers. I need those. Pretty desirable cars, so this is certainly a good example of one. But again, as always, we'll set up the timing lapse. I'm just going to take a wire brush on the drill. I'm going to leave the valve covers on now. I'll remove them when we go to repaint them, but I don't want any contamination getting in the engine itself. So wire brush the drill, tape off anything that I don't want to hit, like some of these switches. I guess that's temperature sensors, a vacuum tree. That's a vacuum tree. Yeah, we'll just go from there. So talk to you soon. All right, time to paint the intake. Got everything masked off. Not my preferred way of painting things. This is how the factory did it. They sprayed it, at least GM did. I don't know if Lincoln and Ford did, but essentially they assembled the engine, spray it, and go from there. So you can see all the overspray on those. I do have to clean them up a little bit more. There's overspray on the back of the intake as well. But I'm gonna do my best just to keep it a nice even coat. Intakes and really anything that gets hot, cast iron especially, is pretty difficult. A lot of prep work is needed. You can't cut corners. You got to get all the dirt and grime off. You got to get the rust off. So I cleaned it up the best I could. I feel pretty good about it. Tech tip, if you need things to be masked that are kind of bulky or clunky or in the way, and you don't want to spend the time wrapping tape all the way around them, go to your mom's or your fiance or wife's or girlfriend's kitchen cabinet and grab the aluminum foil. Don't tell them, just take it and then put it back. Works great for stuff like fuel lines and heater hoses and vacuum lines and all that. Outside of that, the prep work I use for spray painting things and really any type of thing that will be painted, whether it's out of a gun or not. Ideally, I like to get everything down to bare metal if I could. This is the air cleaner lid. Take some of this industrial wax and grease remover, and I've already wiped this down with just a clean terry towel, as well as blew it off. And you can see, I'm about to show you, just by going like this, it takes off a ton of the grime, some blue paint as well. So this is always a step where people have their opinions about spray painting parts. I've always had really good luck with it. The devil is always in the detail. It's all about the prep work. So while the intake will just get sprayed with the high temp engine paint, this is going to be self-etch primed. Then I'll probably block that with 400 or 800. Then I'll take a sandable primer because there's not a lot of pores or any types of gouges that need to be filled. Prep that, maybe one coat sand with 400 and then maybe another coat and I'll wet sand it with 800 and then this will get painted the same blue. Still have to do a lot of prep work. This air cleaner needs to be stripped. I got to do the inside as well because of the rust from the chemical and other water that was dumped on it. Again, it did get hot in there. Some other odds and ends as well, like this bracket's going to have to be stripped and painted. So you'll see all that here. Not sure we're going to end this video off. May get this intake painted, and then next step will be reassembly and painting of the other parts. So we'll have to see, because I like to ramble and you guys don't like hearing me. You like Other Lou. Other Lou is not going to be in this first video, I don't think. Maybe he will be. I don't know. I know he watches, though. He is probably all of our views, so thank you, Dad. Another thing I should have mentioned, when you're spraying out of a can, this is Duplicolors self-etching. Really, if you're spraying out of anything, you always want to gradually build coats. So I always start with a light attack coat where you're almost barely seeing contact made. And as you're going, you want to gradually build them up. And this is probably all that's left in this can. So that's great. Yeah, I should probably get a fresh can. But the point I'm trying to make is you never want to go too thick in any one spot at any one time. And especially as you are painting your final coats, because the thicker the paint, the more prone it will be to chipping. If you're installing bolts or, installing bolts, as you tighten them down, it will probably crack the paint. And you may get away with it depending on where it is, but if it's something like an air cleaner lid and you over tighten the center wing nut, that paint will just flake right off and it'll look terrible. So don't do that. It's the next day. Just painted last night, which you saw. It's the last of the warm days, supposed to get up to about 60 degrees outside, so it'll get somewhere between where it's at now in the garage. I'm not sure if this thermometer is even accurate. Bought it off of eBay. Anyway, paint came out great. Primer for the lid I am really happy with. As I mentioned, not a ton of spots that we have to fill because of pitting or any type of gouges, so we'll lightly sand this. I'll probably end up going 600. I think yesterday I said between 4 and 8. The only logical choice there is 6. And then I'll hit it with a sandable primer. Gonna prep to do the air cleaner today. One of the owner's requests was to get rid of the oil filter looking hangy bob thing that was on it. I Googled it. It sounds like it was used as a noise cancellation measure for intake noise. So carburetor noise from Lincoln. You know, it's the added benefit you get. I'm not sure if they ran it on other Ford products as well, specific to the 460, but this measures out to just about 1.75 inches. I know the owner has no intention of ever putting it back on, but a rubber grommet that you can get at any parts store will hopefully plug that hole and fit it perfectly, and then we'll probably just dab a little silicone on the inlets here for the bolts, and then again, if he ever wants to take those off. But we'll have to take all the various things off. This got a little toasty, so I'm not sure exactly what that sensor does, but we'll have to discuss if we're going to buy a new one there or what we'll do. I know you all want to see the intake. Came out good. It's not great. There's definitely some touch up to do, but I'm happy with the product overall. Certainly looks 100 times better than what it was. Really difficult to get in all the little nooks and crannies, so I'm gonna have to slowly just go over some. Like I could see some, various points where some touch up will be needed. Also, I did look on just pictures. There's an 18,000 miles 75 Continental on eBay right now for reference in terms of what was painted and what was not. I chose to block off the thermostat housing because I'm going to remove that and paint it separately, as well as going to paint around the intake in spots that I missed there. So that'll be to come. I'm going to end the video off here. Wanted to get the first one out in pretty much real time of work that has been done. Next video, we'll probably start off with all the remaining parts that need to be sanded and primed, etc. But I'm probably going to paint everything at the same time, and then that video will be focused on reassembly. So it might be a week to a week and a half later from where this one leads off, and then I may end up doing a third video detailing this and tuning for the new carburetor and stuff like that. We'll have to see how long the second one goes, but gonna leave that off here. If you like this video and want to see more of this car, consider liking and subscribing. I don't like showing my face. Do it, please. We love to have you. We got some stuff coming up for Thanksgiving and the holiday season. It gets cold in Pennsylvania, so I will suffer in here without heat if you want to watch.